think for a lot of you that don't really have markets, or you think you've exhausted your warm market, you live in Southern California. I mean, if you live in Southern California, there's 20 million people within 1 hour to an hour and a half radius of where your butt's at right now. You do. And to not do well here is just an issue of not be willing to do something like that. You might say, well, I'm not comfortable doing that. Well, then you're not serious about winning. I mean, what comfort and success are like oil and water. They don't mix. They never will mix. And so if you want to be really successful, you can't be comfortable and successful simultaneously. It's impossible. You're going to go through a discomfort stage to get to the ultimate comfort stage. That's the way it is, the way it's always been. That's why there's so few people that really win big in America, because no one wants to be uncomfortable. And everybody that wins big, I mean, those of you that are RVPs and have done well, all of you went through stages where you were so uncomfortable you couldn't stand it. You remember that, right? I remember Dennis Lang and George Verdugo, when they weren't any good at the business. They had 2 desks right by my office. Rick was on the other side, and they would be on the phone, calling cards, remember that, Dennis, huh? And George? Calling cards, calling through the phone book, doing whatever it took, botching it up left and right, and Rick would talk to me and go, oh my God, can you believe how bad they are? It's unbelievable. And I said, yeah, but they're working, and then, but they were just doing whatever it took, and that wasn't comfortable for them. But you know what? Today, making a couple $100,000, Dennis is probably going to make $250, and George is going to make, $450 this year. And they were bad at one time. Everybody was bad at one time, but they were willing to be uncomfortable. That is the difference between them and the thousands of people that have come through my organization that were really great, that maybe in the beginning stages, if you looked at them on the surface, they had more potential and were sharper and had more going for them, but they just weren't willing to be uncomfortable at all. And so this, Primerica thing is what I've always really liked about it the most in a sick way. I love the way it exposes people. I just love it, okay? I love sharp people that won somewhere else, that come here, think they know it all, and they get their ass handed to them, okay? And then you got some guy that doesn't know nothing about nothing, like a Dennis Lang or George Verdugo, who were kids when they got in the business, and they're just willing to suck it up and do it, and they just beat their brains in, right? I love that, I love seeing that. A young kid like a Daniel Alonzo, who was making minimum wage when he got involved in the business, was a young kid, and nobody would give him the time of day probably in any other business. He comes in here and he just beats people to death because he just will do the work, and he doesn't care about the comfort right now. He knows ultimately he's going to be comfortable, and right now it doesn't matter if he's comfortable or not. And then all the rest are just going, well, that just doesn't feel comfortable. I don't know if I could do that. Well, okay, well then that's a choice you make. Choose to be comfortable, choose to be mediocre. That's the trade-off, okay? Nothing wrong with that. That's what you want. Do it, okay? But there's a couple of you that say, you know what? Forget it. I hate the way my life's going right now. I hate my situation. I don't like where I live. I don't like the car I drive. I don't like that I can't do whatever I want when I want to do it. I don't like the fact that no one respects me, right? Including my spouse. And I'm ready to change and do whatever it takes. You know what I'm saying? There's some of you that you're hearing what I'm saying, right? And you're just there. And that's what this is for. And that's what Primerica's for, really, is for those people. That's the thing. That's what I was when I got in the business. I was sick of the way I was living. I hated living paycheck to paycheck. I hated having a boss. I didn't like the way I felt about myself. I wanted to be free, and I didn't care what it took. I didn't care if I had to work 15-hour days, 6 days a week. To me, it didn't matter. Freedom is the only thing that mattered to me. What my family thought about me, what my friends thought about me, what anybody thought about me was so irrelevant to me. Only winning and getting free was the only thing relevant to me. So I didn't care. I had a lot of my friends mocked me and said, look, you're doing that thing, that multi-level Amway type thing. And, well, you're a dreamer and you think, I heard all those things. I had a cousin that made fun of me, all that stuff. But you know what? Who's laughing now? Huh? Who's laughing now? That's the bottom line, right? Who cares what anybody thinks? The only thing that matters is what you do, right? And you know what? The next 3 to 5 years are going to go by so fast to make your head spin, right? This year is virtually over, right? It's already January 1st, like Jay said, right? Year's over. Did you have the year that you dreamed of? If you didn't, I guarantee you were way too comfortable this year. You were way too comfortable. You were way too committed to being comfortable and being uncomfortable. And that's why you didn't have the year you wanted to have. And you know that's true. You know it in your heart of hearts. You don't like hearing it, but it's the truth. And you know what? The key to getting better is really accepting what you are, right? And making a change from that point forward, right? That's the key. I'm going to talk to you about two things in the next 45 minutes. And one of those things is how to manage your time to get wealthy. Anybody interested in becoming wealthy in here? Okay. What I'm going to talk to you about is what I did. You know, this is how I did it. And it works, okay? It's slam dunk, will work for everybody that does it, okay? Number one, you need to pick a planning tool. I would recommend a PalmPilot today. I used a day timer, but I would not use a paper device today. I think you're Fred Flintstone if you're using a paper device, okay? And I am anti-technology, okay? I mean, not anti, but I don't know anything about it, but I'm learning how to use it. As a matter of fact, this talk that I did, I wrote the whole talk on my PalmPilot, and then I put it on the thing, and I transferred it to Word, and then I emailed it to Rob so he could delta knit it to you, if you can believe that, okay? So if I can do that, anybody can do that. But what's awesome about it is it's just a great tool. It's a tool. It has the rates for life insurance. You can put there's an awesome future value type calculator, investment calculators you have that you could utilize on appointments and stuff like that. It has a lot of things in it. Like if you have a reoccurring situation like Jay was talking about, like every Wednesday and every Friday he has calls that he makes. You can put that in there and hit all dates for the whole year, and it'll block out those days all year. You don't even have to write it over and over. Use it once, hit a thing, boom, it does the whole, it's unbelievable what it does, okay? It's really, really awesome. And so regardless of what you use, if you want to keep using paper, that's fine. But whatever you do, make sure you get one. And in my opinion, PalmPilot's the best because there's also things coming down the pike that the company's going to be implementing that are going to be used on the PalmPilot that you're going to be able to use that they're working on right now. I'm meeting with John Addison tomorrow for 2 hours, and we're going to be discussing a lot of these things, which I'll get that information to you later on. But some of it's that's some exciting things that are happening. 2, learn how to use all the features of your planning tool to become as efficient as possible. Don't just get a planning tool. Learn how to use it. Sit your butt down and figure out how to use it. Spend a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours, and learn how to make it the most effective tool that it can be. Don't just know a little bit of it. Use the whole thing because there's some features in it that are pretty incredible if you utilize them. 2nd, start each year, month, week, and day with the plan. This is one of the things that I have always been fanatical about. Is I start the month, the year, the month, the week, and the day out. I know what I'm going to do. I don't wing anything. I never have okay, I don't wake up and go, what am I going to do today? I never did that, okay? Especially when you're on the road to trying to get financially independent. It's critically important that you don't do that right now, all right? Right now, you need to be a fanatic about that. Their goals need to be written out clearly. The goals should include these things. Your goals should include, I'm talking from daily to yearly, should include recruiting. What's the recruiting goal? What's your life premium goal? What's your securities goal? What's your loans goal? What's your prospecting goal? What's your Primerica legal protection goal? What's your long-term care? And ultimately, what's your cash flow goal? Okay? You should have those goals. You should be very clear. The reason it's important to be clear about them and know them and see them is because what happens, whether you believe this or not, the more you see something and you're clear about it, your subconscious will take over and help you accomplish that. If it's vague and ambiguous, it doesn't know what to do to help you, okay? And I don't know if this is too weird for you, but it's the way it works, okay? Very important. You need to break down these goals from monthly to daily. Personal goals are the most important goals you will set, okay? What you're going to do personally is the most important. Everything else is secondary. what you personally are going to do is critical, what you're going to do daily, because that's what you're going to work off to sell to the rest of the group, okay? What you're doing. That's how I did it. I was always selling, like Brian was talking about what I did. I did 3 recruits and 6 sales a month. I didn't do 3 recruits and 6 sales. I did probably 10 recruits and probably 10 to 20 sales. Back then, you could go to 1-day class and get a license. I was field training licensed people all the time. If you remember that, Steve? And I do the sale, I do everything. I do the recruiting. And of course, they were for Steve or for whoever. But I was doing a lot more than 3 and 6. I wasn't doing 3 and 6. Those are only ones that were credited to me that were my people, okay? There was a lot different than that. It was a lot bigger number than that. And that's what I don't see most people doing right now. A few people like a Daniel Alonzo or, Jay Knott's doing that. Carmen does that also. John DeGeorge, Danny Duff. There's a few people that are consistently doing, significant numbers, but not very many, okay? Your second most important goals are your base shop goals, okay? So first, your personal goals are the most critical. The second would be your base shop goals. And even if you have RVPs, it doesn't matter. I don't worry about what my RVPs do because my RVPs are going to do what they're going to do. I don't really keep track of them too much other than looking at the numbers I talk and I do my media and stuff like that. Really, what I always would ever worry about was what was my base shop doing. Your base of credibility comes from your base shop and your personal, okay? All your credibility that you're going to have to run your organization. I'll tell you right now, I'm going to be very honest with you. One of the reasons my through first production sucks right now, okay, is because my base sucks right now, okay? It does. It's a fact, okay? And I don't know that I'm ever going to put the time and energy to make that happen because I don't need to, honestly. And I have a life and all that, but at least I did it for the period of time to create the life, okay? And that's what I'm trying to get some of you to do right now. And so because my base is pathetic right now, right? My through first is pathetic. Well, I don't want you to make that same mistake. I can afford to do that, okay? But you can't afford that if you're going to get financially independent. You need to get your base shop cranking and your personal cranking until you get where you want to get, okay? Then you can do whatever you want. Then it doesn't matter. Once your goals are written down, the most important thing for you to do is plan each day. Plan your day hour by hour and leave no time unaccounted for. There should be no blank places in your planning. Every hour should be accounted for. Every hour should be dedicated to something, whether it's appointment or making phone calls or preparing for your meetings that night or whatever, okay? Whether it's prospecting or an appointment to see somebody, there should be no blank times that are accounted for. This should be completed and reviewed each night before bed. So what you should do, this is what I always have done. Before I go to bed, I look at my planner and I know exactly from the time I get up to the time I go to bed at night what Hector LaMarque's doing. I always did that. And what happens when you put in, like, for example, I need to call back, John and Mary Smith, with some sort of an answer or question or something like that. I have that written in there. Their telephone number is in there, what I need to ask them, and then boom, I do it, knock it out, boom, knock it out, boom, knock it out. And so what happens when you develop that kind of a discipline every single day, some amazing things start happening. Number one, this is what's going to happen for those of you that do this. You're going to sleep better. I promise you, you will sleep better because you will not be relying on your memory to do anything. You do never want to rely on your memory because if you're doing the business aggressively, you have too many things going on to remember everything effectively. And if you rely on your memory, you're going to miss a lot of things. And every time you forget something, your credibility with the people that you forgot hurts you. And it hurts your ability to lead, and it hurts your ability to get people to trust you, to give you referrals, to help you. I'm telling you, it's really important. You sleep more soundly, knowing that you have left nothing to chance or memory. I cannot overemphasize how important this is in maximizing your success. There may be some of you thinking, well, Hector, I never planned like that, and I've done all right. Well, I contend if you are more disciplined and you actually did this, that you would be at a minimum double your size right now and double plus your income. Because some of you, in spite of yourself, make $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000 a year. And if you were more committed to this, you would be making $400,000 and $500,000 and $600,000 a year. That's how I was able to go from 80 to 400 to 800. This is the reason, is I was fanatical about this. And people trusted me, and people knew when I said I was going to do something, I did it. And I never forgot anything. And people were amazed, and people felt comfortable, and they trusted me. For a lot of you, you know that you forget lots of things, and every time you do, you think it's no big deal. But I'm telling you, it's a huge deal to the people you forget. Okay? And you think nothing of it. And that's one of the problems that a lot of you have. Okay? 6, nothing should be left off your planning. Leave nothing to memory. This is critical to operating at peak efficiency. By doing this, you should never forget to do anything. As a result, your word will be your bond, and your credibility will set you apart from virtually all other people. And what is this going to require of you? It's going to require that you're going to have to sit down for 20 or 30 minutes and write all this stuff in there. It takes time to do this, okay? But the half hour or even an hour, whatever time you invest to write it out and plan it out, it's an investment that's going to pay off huge dividends. If you trust me on this, okay, it will pay off because you won't ever forget anything, and you will set yourself apart. And you'll start seeing, like a simple thing, like let's say you meet somebody and they say, look, I'm really busy. Why don't you call me back on January 15th? Well, you know what most people do? They go, yeah, and they forget about it. Not me. As soon as you tell me that, boom, it's in my PalmPilot, January 15th, 6 o'clock, call Joe McLeasy. And you know what? I know the day that on the 14th, I look at my thing, I know I got to call Joe McLeasy at 6 o'clock. I have his number right there, so I don't have to look for it because I put it in there back when he told me that on December, whatever, right? And so that day, I just look at it. Then it comes to 6 o'clock. I get on my cell phone. I make the call. You told me, Joe, you told me to call you at 6 o'clock on January 15th. I'm calling you back just like I told you I would. When are we going to get together? And he's going, whoa. He remembered to call me exactly the same right time and everything because he's going to remember, right? What does that do? What does that do for me in terms of credibility in relation to Joe McLeasy? He just met one of the few people he's ever going to meet in his life that actually did exactly what he said he was going to do. As soon as he sees that, his motivation, his incentive to be in business with me goes up exponentially, right? I mean, because nobody does that. Do you understand what I'm saying here? This is gigantic what I'm talking to you about. This is not a little thing here. This could change, revolutionize your whole life, every part of your life. So, by doing this, you should never forget anything. As a result, anyways, goes on, right? The main thing, this will inspire people to want to follow you, will make building a solid, lasting business where people feel they can trust you. That's the most important thing, you guys. People need to feel like that. So 7, plan all parts of your life in your planner, all of them. This would include prospecting, follow-up with clients and recruits, preparation for appointments and meetings, family time. Treat your family time like an important appointment because it is, okay? Plan it in there. Spiritual time, play and recreation. All of it should be planned in there, every bit of it. Don't say, well, it's just my family. If you say you're going to do something with your family, put it in there like an appointment. And if somebody says, hey, can we get together at this time, and it conflicts with your family time, you say, no, I have a commitment that time. I can't do it then, but I could do it here. For that way your family doesn't feel slighted, right? Because a lot of you have problems with your family, right? Feeling slighted because you don't plan them in, and you let other things take precedence, and you don't need to do that. I didn't ever do that. I planned time with my family, and I did it. But you know what? The time I planned for my business, I worked my ass off, and so I never felt guilty about taking family time because I was busting it every minute, every hour was planned out when I wasn't with them, so I never felt bad about taking that time off. I never felt guilty about either one. When I was with my family, I wasn't going, oh, I should be working. And when I was with when I was working, I was going, oh, I should be with my family, because I gave everything to each of them when it was scheduled. You know what I'm talking about? That's what you should be doing. But if you don't plan it in there and you wing it, well, shoot, you're always in conflict all the time. You're feeling guilty and all that, and you don't need to do that. You don't need to feel that way. So If you carefully plan each of the things before mentioned and you totally engage in each one with an equal commitment, you won't feel guilty or negligent about any part of them. That includes your spiritual life too. And that's important. You got to schedule that in, but schedule it in. God understands, all right? You schedule it in. You're trying to do something with your life, right? Your mind will be clear and you will be able to perform at your best in every single instance. You just will. You will. I promise you, you will. Okay. I realize this is what I just wrote this in here. I'm going to send this to you because I want to try to get some of you to actually do this. I realize that many of you will see planning as too much work and you will continue starting each day, figuring it out as you go. It saddens me to know you could be great, but you will choose not to be. How do you choose not to? By violating laws of success that are as real as the law of gravity. Planning and following a plan with consistency over time, relentlessly, without wavering, will guarantee you success. Right, Jay? Guarantee you success. But not planning and winging it daily also guarantees a minimum of success. Those of you serious about success, make a commitment for 90 days to commit totally to planning your life 365 days a year. Stay committed until you have secured yours and your family's financial future. See, that's the whole point of being in Primerica, in my opinion. To secure your family's future. That's the point. Not to write sales, not to get awards, not to win trips. Those are all side benefits. That's not the point of this thing, okay? After you become financially independent, you want to go back to your old way of being, do it. You've earned it. If you want to go back to winging it all day once you're financially independent, do it. Who cares? Okay? My guess is you will like the reduced stress, respect, and credibility that planning gives you, and you'll make it a part of your life as like I have. That's my guess. Hey, folks, you know what the great thing about planning? It's something everybody can do. You don't have to have like a certain IQ or be charismatic or be special or be smart or be anything. You just have to do it and then follow through. And over time, just that simple thing alone, I promise you, will set you so apart from everybody else, it'll be amazing. And people will start thinking you're special, and you'll go, I'm not special, I just do what I say I'm going to do. But see, doing what you say you're going to do is weird in our society today. Rarely happens. What time did I do planning? I did all my planning late at night at like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. That's when I did it. Because that's when I was stopped and I could think and I could kind of be objective and see how I went. And I did it late at night. I always did it late at night. And even today, I still do it late. And I'll sit down, we're watching something at night and I have my PalmPilot and I'm always, if you ask Jan, I'm always looking at my PalmPilot. I'm looking, okay, what do I got coming up? What do I got to do? And I write stuff in. Like a simple thing like this. The other day, I was playing golf with a buddy of mine, and another buddy of mine gave me his phone number. He just moved, right? And so he asked me, he says, could you call me with Rick's number? And I said, yeah, sure. So what do? As soon as I could, I got to my PalmPilot, I wrote in, call Bob Harvey with Rick Burse's number. And then I look at my PalmPilot and I call him back. And so what now with when this is a simple example, but the fact is that's what I do. So all of a sudden with Bob Harvey, I've got more credibility now. So Bob feels comfortable to ask me. He trusts that if he asks me something, that I'm actually going to do it. You see what does that mean? What is that worth? Like everything, it's gigantic. But you know what? If you don't have a plan, if you don't write them down, you're not going to do that. And to think that doesn't have an effect on your overall success in business, you're just not thinking clearly. It has a huge impact, huge. Okay, but that includes everything too. I'm not just talking about business. I'm talking about your personal life, your family, with your wife, with your kids, and also with your spiritual life. It's all together, folks. It's all the same thing. Being successful is being successful is being successful. It's just the same in everything. It doesn't change. It's all the same. Okay. Now, and I'm so glad that Jay touched on this. This was so perfect. And I've been talking to Rob about this the other day, not the other day, but when God, who was out here I was talking to about this? Anyways, I was talking to somebody that had come out to speak for me. Oh, Eddie Ayala. And Eddie was asking me about, I was talking to him and, about, because I've been helping Eddie Ayala a little bit. He's been calling me and I've been kind of mentoring him. And he said, this wide thing, I understand that, but what do you really mean by that? And so I went on into this whole dissertation of why go wide, right? I was telling him this stuff, right? And Rob was there and he said, man, I never heard you say all those things before. I've heard you say go wide, but you went into detail about why you do it and what's the repercussions and all that. He goes, you should do a talk on that. And so I'm going to tell you why go wide, because going wide, and a lot of you heard me say this a billion times, okay? And I want to go a little more in depth and tell you what the benefits of doing it are, because I think a lot of you don't believe it, okay? Because why? Because you don't do it. So obviously you don't believe it yet. As soon as you believe it, you start doing it. I think Jay believes it now, right? You actually study the numbers. It's $3,000 per direct that writes a sale. I've said that. How many times have you heard me say that, Carmen? Like about 1 billion, right? But what happens is hardly anybody focuses on doing it. It's just comical to me that you who are RVPs, who are really good at the business, who know how to recruit people, who don't do it. It's so slam dunk. If you do it, you'll get wealthy, but you don't get yourself to do it. You don't have a plan of doing it. I don't understand that. That was my number one priority. I tell you what set me off on that is one day I met with this was a long time ago. I met with Mike Sharp, and back then Mike Sharp had a gigantic base shop. He was doing 200 sales a month. He had a month in November one year where he did 500 life sales in his base shop in the month of November. Okay. I remember that. Who remembers that? Okay. George, remember that? 500. You're going, if I could do 500 sales in a year, I'd be excited, right? He did 500 in his base shop in a month. Okay. So how did he do? I was doing a couple hundred back then. Okay. So how do you do that? I said, well, what's the most important thing about building a big base shop? Because he said, all good things go to those who build the big base shop. That saying is a Mike Sharp saying, okay? And he told me that. He says, and the most important thing to building a big base shop, Hector, is being wide, recruiting directs. And he said it just like this. And I don't mean recruiting people for your people. I mean, you go prospect, you find them, you recruit them, you're your guys. That's what I mean. Because a lot of you, because you recruit people for people, you think you're recruiting people, but you're not recruiting anybody yourself, because it's too much work to go prospect and do the things that Jay was talking about, right? That requires a lot of discipline to do that. So it's easier just to get my guys to bring me guys. I can recruit them all day long. But see, that's fine if you want to kid yourself and think you're going to build a big business that way, but you're not. You're not, okay? So when he said that to me, he was already making like $1 million a year when he told me that. And I'm going, shoot, this guy, I'm not arguing with that. That makes total sense to me. And so from that point forward, all I ever thought about was recruiting directs and getting wide. I knew that if I did that, everything else that I wanted to have happen would happen. I knew that, okay? I believed that. More importantly, I believed it, okay? Which some of you still don't believe, okay? You're still trying to do it through your guys. Mistake. You'll make a living, but you'll never get big. That's the saddest part about that. And I see Mark Cox nodding his head. You know what I'm talking about, right? Mark, you tried it the other way. It don't work, right? Doesn't work. So it's Jay, right? You tried it too, right, Jay? Try to manage your way to the top. Don't work, okay? Okay. Why go wide? One, it is one of the few things you can control in your Primerica career. There aren't very many things you can control, but that is one thing you can control. Two, it is the one sure thing you can do to create a stable, consistent income. Look at your business like an engine. The more cylinders you have, the more likely you get to your destination, even if you lose one or more cylinders. For example, if you had a two-cylinder engine, like a motorcycle engine, and you lose a cylinder, right, you got a problem. You ain't going anywhere, right? But if you have a V12 with 12 cylinders in it and you lose a cylinder, you probably wouldn't even notice that you lost it. You probably could go all the way down to 6 and still no problem get to where you're trying to get to, right? Your business is the same way. Everybody gets 2 and 3 and 4 cylinders going, and then they stop, thinking because they're moving, because they're on their way, that they're going to get there. You're not. It's going to take you forever. Some of you are going to get financially independent just because you're going to be here for 25 years and you're going to save some money and you're going to make it, which is fine. There ain't nothing wrong with that. That's wonderful. But why? Why not just do it and get big? Why not do it and go do what you know you should do, right? Okay, so think of that cylinder example. That's exactly how it works. 3, it's the best way to create the highest business value in the event you decide to sell your business. Like right now, I was talking about Brian's upline wants me to buy his business. The problem with his business is he only has 2 direct RVPs. And when they started talking to him, both of them were pretty pathetic, including Brian. So I'm looking at that from a businessman's perspective. I said, this ain't worth buying. These guys are halfway in, halfway out. I'm going to buy this business. I might end up losing on this. I'm not doing that. It's just not there. But you know what? What if you would have had 12 first-generation RVPs instead of 2? How would I look at that business then? Totally different, because if I lost even 2 or 3 or 4 RVPs, I still have a business. But if I buy them with just 2 RVPs, I lose 1, that's 50% of my business gone. I'm not going to invest in a business like that. You with me? You're not thinking about this. Some of you might be saying, regardless of your current feelings, that you would never sell your business. It makes sense to always have that option available to you and for the value to be as high as possible. Wouldn't you agree with that? Even if you just say, like me, if you ask me, Hector, are you ever going to sell your business? My answer is no. My answer is no. I can't see myself ever selling it. But you know what? I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure. Some point, maybe Dak doesn't want to be an actor. He wants to do it. I mean, I'll sell my business to my son because I'm not going to give it to him. And you think, why not? Because I don't want to do that. He should buy it. Nobody gave it to me, right? It's going to be good enough as it is already, right? Just as IRAs he's going to be a multimillionaire from the IRAs we've got going for him. So, but the thing is, the bottom line is that you want it to have the highest value. Your business, like even a base shop, your base shop, if there's 2 or 3 directs that are doing something, it's not very valuable. But if you got 30 or 40 directs, hey, that's a valuable base shop, buddy. That's a real valuable. That's something that has a lot of potential, right? And you know what? You control that. Each and every one of you control that directly. 4, Primerica's compensation clearly tells you what is what you should focus on. Just look at our compensation. I'll tell you why. A, the highest compensation is through personal production and field training. Have you noticed that yet? You make the most money from personal sales and personal field training. That's where all the money's at. I guarantee you, now that you're really starting to do a lot of business, Jay, personally, is your income going up? Every time you go, well, you're going, shoot, I made 10 grand just myself last month, right? That's unbelievable when you start doing that, okay? Recruiting, directs, and field training is the absolute best use of your time until you're financially independent. There's nothing that is more effective or important for you all until you're financially independent than recruiting and field training direct. Nothing you could ever do would be even remotely close to being as important to your business future as that. Nothing. Not a thing. B, the second highest compensation is base shop overrides and bonuses, right? And C, the third highest is first generation overrides and bonuses, and D, the fourth highest is second generation, and on and on. Okay, so if that's the truth, then how do you get a big base? Through WIP. There's no other way to get a big base. WIP, okay? All right? So if you want to have a big base, you got to get wide. If you want to have a lot of firsts, you got to get wide. Everything is width. Everything starts and ends with width. It just does. That's the nature of our business. Whether you like it or not, that's it. End of story. Okay? Knowing this fact and having any focus other than personal width is a result of 1, ignorance, or 2, you're just too lazy, preferring to manage rather than do what would ironically benefit you the most. It's either you're ignorant or you're lazy. Those are the only two reasons you wouldn't do it. Well, I don't like the way you're toned, Hector. Look, those are just statements of fact, okay? I'm not berating any of you, okay? I'm just pointing out what it is. You're either ignorant or you're lazy. That's it. There is no other reasons. I believe this is why most people in Primerica don't ever realize their true potential. One of the primary reasons that most RVPs don't realize their true freedom and don't create and develop leaders all stems from their unwillingness to commit to personal recruiting and field training. They do it for short stretches at a time when they see no other way, but as soon as they get their income up to a comfortable level, they invariably revert to managing. I see that happen over and over and over again. It just cracks me up, right? You get it going, and then, oh, okay, now I'm making money. It's comfortable again. All right, honey, I'm going to take the next month off, and I'm gonna, whatever you do. I don't know what you do, okay? And then what happens, the problem is it's kind of insidious. Everything goes along pretty good because you've built up momentum, so it's going really good. Then all of a sudden, 90 days passes, 120 days pass, and it starts going backwards, and you go, oh, my God, my business is starting to go backwards, right? And then you go, I better get back on it again. And then you go start recruiting people again, right? And then you get momentum going again. And then as soon as it gets going, you fall right into the trap again. Instead of just taking it over the top, crossing the finish line. Danny, cross the finish line, okay? Would you please be the next person that does that? Would you? So at least I have another human being to point to instead of Chris and Rick and the youngers all the time. John Maxwell's law of the lid states that we cannot lead or recruit someone that is a higher level of leadership than we are. Leadership levels range from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest level. If the RVP is a 6 or a 7 in leadership, his base shop is made up of 5s, 4s, 3s, and 2s. Agents are generally recruiting 2 levels below themselves. As a result, virtually all the recruits getting involved are followers. With a base shop made up of followers, at best you might maintain that base shop. What this means is that you must be working every day to increase your level of leadership to attract leaders. Only through attracting leaders or potential leaders can you build a great business. Now, what that means is this, okay? If you look at your base shop, you say, what am I in terms of a leader? You have any pens here? Visa pen? If you're a leader, like I was talking to Lynn and Martin, guys that are in my base shop who have the potential to be RVPs, okay? And we were talking about this leadership, and I said, what do you think? I think they're about 5s right now, okay? And the only reason they're 5s is because they haven't produced any leaders yet. They're very good themselves. If you put, Lynn or Martin on any qualified appointment, they're doing business 9 out of 10 times. They just are. Always close, okay? Which is true for everybody in the room pretty much, right? Okay? So if you're able to do that, the thing that's preventing you from being a 7 or an 8 or a 9 or a 10 is that you haven't yet figured out how to get those people that are in your charge to be able to become leaders in their own right. That's where most of you are faltering right now. You haven't learned how to do that yet. You haven't learned how to, one of the problems I see, I was talking to Lynn about this, sometimes when you're used to being good, you want to do everything yourself. And you're kind of like the parent that you have your son, you have him for the first time cut the lawn, and while he's cutting the lawn, every 5 minutes you're in there going, oh, no, let me show you how to do this. Oh, no, let me show you. No, you're doing it wrong. Let me show you. And he's going, all he's thinking is, I must be really stupid. I can't even do this thing, right? Instead of letting him cut the lawn, the whole thing, and then saying, hey, son, you did an awesome job. You're going to be one of the best lawn cutters in history. Well, let me show you what you did right. And let me show you where if you just fixed a couple of things here, you could be incredible. But you let him do it. And then you correct him after he's done it. And you let them fail a little bit. Okay? Don't be fixing everything while they're doing it. One of the things I was talking to Lynn, he says, I notice that you just let us do everything. I said, yeah. I said, I let you do everything because I want you, even though I could do it, even at this point, let's face it, I'm more accomplished, little more experienced. I could do it better than you too, right? Right now, okay? But I let you do it because how is he ever going to become a leader if I'm always doing it? Huh? If I do everything. Right? I mean, you remember that, George, when you were in base shop? I had you doing everything, right? Steve, when you were in my base shop, I had you doing everything, right? Now, I did my part, but I let people do it. See, you control freaks, you know who you are? Mm-hmm. You're the ones that are always going to have a hard time producing leadership because you feel like you have to be involved in every little friggin' detail, okay? Can't do that and develop leaders. You got to let people do things. And then afterwards, you set them aside. You say, okay, you did awesome. Let me show you how the next time you do this, you can even do it even better. If you just fix this, and this, man, it's just a minor thing, but man, you've done unbelievable. You're going to do incredible. That's how you get people, and you just keep doing that, and keep doing it, and keep doing it. All right, till you got them. The RVP that is not clear about their role to be the primary recruiter, field trainer until they're completely financially independent is destined to underperform until they recognize that role. And you notice I'm being repetitive here, right? I keep saying the same thing over. And there's a method to my madness. It's because, see, you got to be repetitive for people to get things. You can't just say it one time. You got to say it over and over and over and over and over again, and never get tired of saying the same thing over again. Some of you have heard this a million times. You've been around me a long time. I'm driving you crazy right now because you know you've heard this. But you know what? You've heard it, but you haven't really heard it. There's a big difference, you know? In addition, the RVP needs to be diligently improving their leadership ability and have a program to develop their people's leadership ability also. You need to have something where one of the things that I did is I let other people train my people. That's why I'm always that. I've read this book. You need to read this book. You need to read this book. You need to read a Maxwell. I'm always, because a few of you actually have done it. I tell some people actually read it. The people that read it, they start changing the way they think. I know one of the people that have done that is George. George he actually reads stuff I recommend. As a result, George now thinks on his own. He's trained his thoughts, right? So I don't need to worry about George, okay? And you know what? I didn't sit down with them and go over a little detail. I got them on a self-improvement plan, right? And I'm fanatical about pushing people to try to improve all the time. You need to read this. You need to listen to these tapes. That's why I'm getting all these tapes now. I'm doing all these tapes like this is on tape. Because see, you've got to get people changing the way they think, because the way you think is what determines your life. And if you don't get people changing the way they think, you're not going to get them to change their behavior. Suggested reading for the leadership includes reading John Maxwell's Developing the Leader Within You, Developing the Leaders Around You, his 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Reading these books is a minimum foundation of leadership knowledge and understanding that every serious builder must know. These are a minimum. I mean, I've read many, many more than this, okay? Bennis and all these other books, okay? But this would be, if you're going to build a business of leaders, right? They need to know what is a leader? What does a leader do, right? If they don't know, if you leave it up to their own devices, they're not going to ever do the right things. They're going to be doing things with their teams that they think are effective, but in fact aren't. You're going to see that happening over and over again. Okay, you don't want people thinking or guessing at this stuff, guys. You want them knowing. I'll tell you how I was able to build a big business pretty fast. And once after the first couple of years, my business really took off, right? How did that happen? I'll tell you. I was at a fairly high level of leadership even before I got in Primerica, because I was already doing this stuff that I'm talking about before I even got here, Okay. So when I got here, when I was in the jewelry business, folks, I produced 3 managers of jewelry stores while I was there. 3 very good managers that came into the business, knew nothing about jewelry business. I trained them. They went on and became managers of other stores and did well. Okay. I had already trained 3 RVPs before I got to Primerica. Okay. Back then, I was a total fanatic about personal development, even before I even got here. 1979 was the year that I made a commitment to personal development. I got into Amway, made $86 my best month in 2 years, but the one thing I got out of Amway was personal development. I started reading books, listening to tapes, invested thousands of dollars in my personal development, and so that when it started happening, I started changing the way I thought. I became a leader, so I was able to impart these lessons that I was learning through books and tapes to the people that are in my charge, and that's how I did it. And that's how you're going to do it. Okay? It's the same thing. But if you don't get people doing it, they ain't going to do it. You don't hold them accountable to it, they're not going to do it. You've got to get them doing it. You've got to get people changing their thinking. I mean, I tell you, you take people am I worried about Jay not thinking now at this point? Do you think I should be? No. Not worried. I'm not worried about George. I'm not worried about, some of you that are there. I'm not worried about you. Okay. You're going to do great. Okay. Second, I committed myself to make myself available to assist my people in recruiting anyone with leadership potential. This is one of the things that you as an RVP need to commit to doing. Anytime anybody has anybody that shows some potential, 5-pointer, really sharp, maybe some sort of a leader in the current situation right now in whatever form or fashion, you need to let people know constantly, I'm available to help you recruit this person. Put them in front of me. I'll help you. Set up an appointment. I'll help you recruit them. I'll help you get them involved. You're the one that knows everything. You're the one that's making money. You're the one that has the experience, right? They're probably at a leadership level of maybe 2 or 3. You're at 5, 6, 7, 8. You're the one that can recruit them. The problem that a lot of you still do is you think that they can recruit these people. I told this, Mike, there's no chance you would be in the business, Mike Mendoza, if Tom or Van didn't put me in front of you, right? Even though you weren't direct to me, I'm the one that recruited you. There wouldn't have been anybody else that could have recruited you, right? You know that, okay? It's the same thing, Steve Vasquez. I'm the one that recruited you, right? John Clancy put me in your home, but I'm the one. You were a college graduate, had an executive position at Union 76 at that point. Very sharp guy, tons of credibility. I don't think that John probably would have recruited you by himself. Probably not. Am I right? Right. I'm the one that recruited him, and I'm the one that field trained him. See, that's the thing that I did that I don't see a lot of you doing. Anybody that had any kind of potential, I was there, and I was closing. Now, I didn't get all the credit for all of them, but in the end, I did, didn't I? Okay? I was involved in virtually all highly qualified recruits. I did not train them all, but I recruited nearly all during my building stage, and I let the new recruit know, right? The reason that I was able to recruit a Mike Mendoza or Steve Vasquez is I let them know, even though they weren't going to be direct to me, they knew that they had access to me. They knew that I would be there for them. They knew that I would answer the questions. They knew that even though they were getting under this other person, that really they were going to be reporting to me. Right, Mike? That's why you got in, right? You know what I'm talking about? That's why they got in. And I let them know that. Look, I know you're going to be under Bill, John, Mary Smith, but look, you're going to be like you're direct to me. I'm going to answer all your questions. I'm going to help you. I'm going to be there for you. Any kind of thing comes up, I'm the guy. You come to me. I'm going to teach you how to be successful with the thing. I know how to do this thing. And I sold them on Hector, not on Primerica, not on Citigroup. I never, ever recruited a person in my life to our company. Never. I recruited them to me, just like you should be doing. Okay? Remember, people follow you, not Primerica or Citigroup. So if you leave all recruiting, mainly highly qualified people, up to your people, you will suffer the consequence of slow growth, resulting in a lack of freedom, Repeat, you should be the main recruiter and field trainer until you're financially independent. I can't stress it more. Until you're done, that's your job. JP, that's your job, okay? That's what you're supposed to do. Now, you don't need to train everybody. Jay just recruited 10 people last month, right? There's no way Jay's going to train 10 people. And he shouldn't even think about training 10 people. He should continue to recruit 10 people. But he should never think about field training 10 people. He should train 2 or 3 of the 10. But he should never stop recruiting the 10 because he can, right? So he recruits the 10. This is how I did it. If you guys were in my base shop, and there's a bunch of guys that aren't here that were in my base shop, how I did it, I recruited all these people, and I'd call up, hey, Steve, I got this appointment with this guy, Bill, and I can't make it, and he's going to meet me at the office at 6 o'clock. Can you meet him there to go train him? And he'd go, yeah, sure, because he didn't have anything going. I've done that with you before, right, Steve? So Steve would go meet him. He'd go train him, right? And I was always using George or Steve Cross or all kinds of Alan Souza. I used all of you to train everybody. You remember that at all? You better probably think anything about it. But I was not training everybody. I cherry picked. I only trained the ones that had the most credibility, or that I thought had the potential to be RVPs, and I let all of my RMs and district leaders who were competent train everyone else. But if I found somebody that had potential, there's no way I'm letting anybody else train them. Not a chance. Not a chance, okay? Because I'm locking that person in. Am I making any sense to any of you guys here? Okay? That's how I built it, you guys. Because a lot of you go, if I recruit all these people, what am I going to do with them? You dish them out. But you got to make sure that the people you dish them out to know what the heck they're doing, and you can trust them. You sit down with them, you check their presentation, you make sure they can close, you make sure they're competent in every area, so that when you do put somebody with them, that they don't blow their market and all that, right? That's just common sense. And hopefully you'll do that. Okay. Width allows you to create true competition on your team. The competition is critical to creating explosive growth in your business, and only you can create the scenario. So what you've got, one of the things that's really exciting about when you start getting wide, this is how it works, okay? You got, let's say, I remember back when I had at my base shop, I had George and Steve Vasquez and Steve Cross, and who else was in there? Jose Lupien, and who was back there? Remember back there? Oh, Dennis Lang, and who else was back in there? McCrumman and Susie, and I had a good ton of guys. Okay, they're all direct to me, right? And what I did is I got all these guys trying to kill each other, but I didn't have 5. I had like 30 or 35 or 40 of them that were direct, right? And so what I was doing is I was saying, hey, George, how's it going? And he said, oh, it's going great. Hey, you know what, man? How's your month shaping up? Oh, I'm at 2 sales and 1 recruit. Oh, that's great. I was just talking to Gary right now, man. He's already at 10 sales and 4 recruits. We're having an unbelievable month. Hey, Dennis, how's it going, Dennis? Oh, it's going great, great. Hey, Dennis, how's it going? Oh, it's going good. Well, where are you at? Oh, I've got 4 sales and 2 recruits in already. Hey, I was talking to Steve Finger, and Steve's already at 13 sales and 5 recruits, man. Oh, what a month we're having. Hey, Steve Cross. And I would make these calls every night like this all around, and I would do that. And they knew exactly what I was doing, pissed them off, but they were all competitors, and they couldn't stand it. And what they knew is that they were just one cog in the wheel, and what they did or didn't do would never really affect me that much in the end. And they knew, Steve Cross knew, that I liked him and loved him, but I didn't need him. Always has known that, right? Everybody knew I liked him and loved him, but no, everyone knew that Hector didn't need him. And the only reason I could afford that is because I was wide. And that's how I got a lot of people to do a lot. You got to have a width and to create the competition. You got to have that, okay? It's the only way you will ever be able to lead and control your business with credibility. When you are wide, everyone is clear that they're only a small part of the reason you are successful, allowing you to come from strength at all times. So when you aren't wide, your key people are very clear They are of significant importance and therefore in control, and you created the situation by choosing not to go wide. So when you have 2 or 3 guys and the 2 of them, you have 4 directs and 2 of them do like 90% of your production, they know they're in control of your business. You're not in control of it. You're delusional if you think you're in control of that business. You have nothing to say about that business. That's not a good place to be. And that's where a lot of you are right now. You need to fix that if you ever want to have control of your business, okay? In the end, because we're able to only override through 6 generations, every time an RVP gets promoted in your organization, you make less money on the same production. Did you know that? Huh? Every time someone gets promoted to RVP in your organization, you make less money on the same production. Do you know that? Huh? You just promoted an RVP, you're making less money on the same volume. And if you keep doing the same volume, your income doesn't go up, it goes down. You got that? Okay? Same for you. You're going to promote an RVP, your income doesn't go up when you put on an RVP, it stays the same. It might stay the same because you get that RVP bonus or whatever that bonus is. It don't go up that much, does it, Carmen Ranella? Like you thought it would. You got to get wide. You got to get wide. It's your only hope, because we don't override. We're not in the luxury of like what Art had. Art overrode the whole organization at a flat 6%, all of it the same. Okay, we don't have that luxury. If we did, I'd be promoting RVPs left and right, and who cares, right? It didn't matter where the production comes from, but it does matter where the production comes from. That's why you better build a big base shop. Width offsets this reality. Width in the base shop means you will have a big base. You'll be able to produce with that first generation. With that first will be the reason you will be able to develop a big hierarchy. A big hierarchy will allow you to create wealth. So get wide and get wealthy. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.